Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday, September 16th. This is Mr. B from Almond Acres Charter Academy, and this is maybe our third or fourth time that we've done the Parent Shared Start and still navigating the technology. So if somebody could tell me, yes, Mr. B, we're online, we can hear you, and everything is running smoothly, that would be wonderful. It's 8:30 right now, so I want to get started ASAP here. And if I could get somebody to chat to me, a thumbs up, that would be super. So let me pause for just a moment before we begin. So I'm checking the chat bar to see if I can get a thumbs up. Otherwise, I will assume everything is well. My computer says excellent connection, so that's good news. All right, well, let me begin. Again, thanks for joining me this morning. Maybe you're watching this later on in the day or even the next day. And just grateful, mainly grateful because we're talking to each other. We're communicating, we're dialoguing about what's going on at our school. What are the messages that our kids are hearing, so that those same messages can be articulated at home in a way that makes sense for home. Because it certainly, we speak these things, these messages to our kids as it makes sense at school. But I strongly believe, more than ever, as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, that the messages we're sharing here at Almond Acres are lifetime messages, things that fit into every element of our life, whether we're at school, we're at work, or we're at home, or we're at play, because they're principles for living life well, for growing great kids and growing great families. So let me get started. I'm going to switch to my slides, but before I do, just a reminder, if you would like to chat and ask a question or comment about something that I'm talking about today, please just add to the comments, and I'll do my best to pay attention to that and be able to respond to it live this morning. Otherwise, you can leave the comment and I'll pick that up and maybe respond to it next week. The other way is to message me through Parent Square on the message board at Mr. B. All right, so let me go back to our slides here, and we'll go through what the kids are hearing in Shared Start today. I had the pleasure of going and visiting the kinder first and second grade Shared Start this morning and listened in a bit as to what the kids were doing and hearing and saying. So I'll share a little bit about that with you. Well, let me start. Again, what the kids started with was the Pledge of Allegiance, and exceptional posture, exceptional citizenship this morning, what I saw in there. The kids responded so beautifully. How many kids is that? 60, over 100 kids, 150 kids were in there this morning, and everything about it was just exceptional. I was really impressed to see how well they've tuned in, because we're talking about kindergartners, first graders, and they're learning how to learn. And after 3 weeks, 4 weeks of school, they're already tuned in to some really important practices in terms of behavior and learning skill. So that went really well. The calendar that they're seeing is a little different than this one in terms of look, but just to show it to you again, I'll show it every day that we meet, just so you have a heads up and a reminder on what's going on. We just finished conference weeks last week, and yesterday we had a staff development day, and the entire staff gathered here on campus and off campus and had a great professional development day. So here we are on September 16th, and the next thing's coming up. Probably the biggest one right there is the 24th in our board meeting. Everyone's always welcome to attend the board meeting and share your thoughts, share your celebrations, share your concerns with our board. The board is our oversight. It's our community. It's our county authorizer, all kind of helping to navigate, steer our ship in the right direction. And with a lot going on, having hired a new director, there's a lot going on, and I'm so grateful for the support of our board, for our county board, for our county superintendent, for helping to help our ship navigate in the right direction and get full sail ahead. So, board meeting next Wednesday, excuse me, did I say Thursday? Next Wednesday, the 24th. All right, let's dig into what the habits are for the week and what the kids are going to be hearing about. We've talked about the 5 character traits of terrific, TRRFC. Let me just illustrate with my hands. So I'm going to go back to another screen here and illustrate that. So the terrific traits. I love things that are on one hand. There's no more than 5 things I have to remember. And if I could illustrate it on my hand, I get that kinesthetic and that visual experience. So use these visuals, use these kinesthetic practices to help your kids remember and to not have to use words. Isn't it nice when I can just use an expression, whether it's my facial expression, my body posture, a reference on my hand. We don't have to say things all the time. We can simply gesture for the proper expected behavior. So again, the terrific traits include 5 traits, and they spell terrific without the vowels. TRRFC. Trust, respect, responsible, fair, and caring. This week, the kids are hearing about caring. They're hearing about what does it mean to care for somebody. And essentially what they're hearing is that caring for somebody is putting somebody else oftentimes first, to helping somebody who needs support. You care for them, you're going to support them, nurture them, help them in some way because you have the capacity or the response ability, the ability to respond to care for somebody. That's what responsible people are or do, is they are able, therefore they can respond. They're response able. So kind of connecting those 2 terrific traits, responsibility and caring, together, and different ways you can do that. One of the simplest ways, let me go back to the slides, is to make eye contact, to show that you care for somebody just by saying hi and looking at them in the face. Eye contact is powerful, it's personal, and when something becomes personable, then we start to appreciate the other person for who they are as a unique human being that deserves dignity. And when we do that, we cooperate, we work together, we take care of each other. When we don't, if we don't make eye contact, if we don't have dialogue, if we ignore one another, then we stop caring, because now that person is an inanimate object. It's something instead of some human being. So making eye contact is a powerful, simple, effective way to care for somebody. And I know, I walked into Shared Start today and a handful of kids, they saw me, turned to me, gave me this beautiful smile and said hello. Really just fills my day, fills my heart when I see kids caring for me. So making eye contact. When you're working with your children, I want to say demand, at the same time not command. But we should, when we're talking to our kids, give them eye contact. Kneel down at their level. If they're laying on the floor and they're upset, well, lay down with them. Lay down, get at their eye level, show them that you care. When we dominate a conversation by standing above our kids, when we overlook them with authority, and let me just say this too, there are times when that's necessary. But most of the time, if we want to understand what's going on with our child, we need to get down to their eye level, get down to their feeling level, so we know what's going on and they know that we care. Because when somebody cares, I'm willing to cooperate. I'm willing to trust you to help me. So use that simple strategy of getting to their eye level and getting into their space with a fair, friendly, firm sometimes disposition. When we do that, then the child is saying, oh, you really do want to help me. You're not just trying to scold me. It's not just about me being punished. It's your genuine concern for my well-being, even when I'm doing something wrong, and maybe especially when I'm doing something wrong, that you care to help me be the better version of myself, to be the great kid that you hope I am, that I hope I am, etc. All right, so additionally, they're talking about respect again, being kind and caring, being patient. So these are all simple ways that we can show how to care and how to work with others, especially in partnerships when you're working in the classroom. All right, so that's one of the habits of the week. The other habit of the week is one of the 7 habits of highly effective people, and frankly, the very first habit of highly effective people, and that is to be proactive. I shared a bit about this last week, but I want to dig into it a little bit more today because it's the number one habit for a reason, because it's the number one habit. And if I may try to illustrate again using a neurological understanding, a brain understanding, why is proactive so powerful and so important? And essentially, if we look at the brain and we look at the 3 parts of the brain stem, the limbic system, and the cerebrum, our survival brain, am I safe, am I warm, am I fed? Our feeling brain is that center brain, the limbic system, and then the cerebrum is our thinking brain. So survival, emotions or feelings, and then thinking. What we're doing is accompanying our children to get to the top, to get to where they're smartest, to get to where we are intelligent. So we have to help them get out of just the feeling brain and connect it to the thinking brain. So that 3-part system, I'm out of survival, I had breakfast this morning, I had a good night's sleep, I'm ready to go. Now I'm feeling something. What am I feeling? Am I feeling joyful? Am I feeling comfortable? Am I feeling like I belong here? Am I feeling cared for? Because when I do, I'm going to think better. I'm going to be smarter. So proactive is up here, is in the cerebrum of the brain, in that part of the brain where we think and we manage our thoughts. We practice productive habits of mind, because that's intelligence. Feeling isn't intelligence. It's a part of it. It belongs to it because it helps to generate thinking, but it's not the end. It's the beginning of thinking. So going from the feeling brain to the thinking brain gets us to be smarter. Now, if I'm stuck in the feeling brain, we call that reaction. We react to our feelings instead of act proactive to our thinking. So I think I shared with you last week, and it's on the Parent Square page today, the Komochi page, which is essentially a set of pictures and words to match how we're feeling, so that I can talk about my feeling. 9 times out of 10, when kids come into my office, the first thing they do is they tell me how they're feeling, whether they're coming in just to visit and say hi, or whether there's a challenge that they're working on. They're going to tell me, hey, Mr. B, I'm feeling uncomfortable. I feel scared. Maybe I feel happy. I'm looking at the poster right now. Maybe I feel hopeful. Sometimes they come in and I feel silly, and they don't know how to manage it. So when we say it, when we talk about our reactive feelings, all of a sudden we become proactive. The simple way we often say it around here is when you name the feeling, you start to tame the feeling. So what we're doing is going from the reactive brain to the proactive brain, and we're being smarter. So this is why the habit of being proactive, of the 7 habits of highly effective people, is the number one habit. It starts there. It starts with coming out of our reactive brain and going into our proactive brain. And how do you do it? Because you're going to feel reactive. You're going to feel something and you're going to want to react. putting on the pause button, taking a moment, taking a deep breath, pausing to count to 10, be contemplative, say a prayer, do something that causes you to go to the top of your head, to the thinking part of your brain. If we fail to go to the thinking part of our brain, we're going to do things we regret. We're going to do things that are not good, that are not true, that are going to cause more commotion in our life. So when a child is feeling reactive, I hope that makes sense and you can see that connection there. Usually when I'm feeling, I want to be reactive. Our role as parents and teachers is to pause that, do our best to help them pause that. And that's why getting at their eye level is so important and so effective, is they pause, they say, oh my gosh, you're listening to me. You care about me. By showing that care, all of a sudden, the feelings slow down. And when they slow down, we can get to the upper part of the brain. So this isn't just, psychobabble stuff. This is neurological understanding of how our brain functions. We go from one level of the brain to the next level of the brain, ideally and hopefully, is that we're increasing their level of consciousness and their level of thinking. Because when we practice thinking, when we develop positive and productive habits of mind, we become intelligent. We're smart. We're effective. And maybe even best, we're happy. We feel joyful because we're in control. We have more freedom to be creative and thoughtful when we get a grip on our brain. That's another illustration that's kind of helpful, is get a grip on the limbic system. It's that center part of the brain. It's just like this. It's that middle part. Get a grip on it by giving it a hug. Maybe sometimes you giving the child a hug is all they need to slow that reactive brain down, depending on their personality. But just helping it to slow down will help it to be proactive instead of reactive. Number one habit. It's just the number one in life. When I look at successful, happy people, they're proactive. They're not depressed. They're I don't have a word to use for alliteration, but they're active. They're joyful. They're free. They're creative. And that's a great kid. That's growing a great kid, is growing that out of them. All right, I could probably talk about that a lot longer, but I think you get the message. Again, any comments or questions, I'd be grateful to hear. And instances. So, for example, if this is something that you're challenged with right now at home and you would like a strategy or two, send me a question, send me a comment, and I'd be happy to share more with you personally if you'd like, or something I can bring back to our meetings and help us all with that. All right, let me see if I have another slide here. I don't believe I do. Oh yeah, I do. There's that triune brain that I was just talking about. So the brain stem, the limbic system, and the cerebrum. So those three parts of the brain we call the triune brain, 3 in 1. And again, I just constantly see parenting and educating as this coaching support, this accompaniment of a child getting to the top of their brain. And when they're stuck somewhere, we go down there with them. We sit with them. We lay down on the floor with them if we have to. We sit with them in that stress that they're having and that challenge that they're having, so that we can help raise their level of consciousness to the next part of their brain. And ultimately, now they have the capacity to think and to act, to be proactive in their life, as opposed to us directing them. One last thing, I think I've shared this with you before too. When you think about the brain, 100 billion neurons in our brain, 100 billion brain cells, and each one times 10,000, the number of connections we can make is awesome. But essentially, this is a proactive neuron. This is a neuron that's flowering, is fruitful, and has many, the word is dendrites, but it has many connections that it's capable of making with the world around it. Versus a reactive brain is often very toxic. It has limited capacity. It is squelching happiness. It is reducing capacity in a student. So when we entertain the feeling brain to the degree that we allow it not to grow to the upper part of the brain, this is what happens to the brain cell. It becomes limited. I like the word squelching. The neurological term is actually it's pruned out. It starts to lose any capacity that it might have. Hence the reason why it's not fruitful. It's not, branching out to other neurons. It can't connect to 10,000 other neurons anymore because it's not been allowed to reach its capacity. So another way to look at that visually, if you ever get a chance, I have these in my home, and again, I was talking earlier about having some kind of oh shoot, I wasn't showing you my slides. Oops, there's that triune brain that I was talking about. Those three parts of the brain. But going back to illustrating this idea with the neuron is having some kind of a symbol to represent it. So this is a symbol to represent it, to represent our brain. This is a symbol to represent being terrific. This is another symbol. Again, not having to use our words is helpful. Research has told us that only about 7% of what we say is the words we use. Odd thing to say, but if in fact 93% is our body language and the tone of our voice. 53% is your body language. 40% is the tone of your voice. If we can get those two things right, our messages are going to be so much more clear. So again, that eye contact, that caring, that going to the space that the kid's stuck in and accompanying them out of it will help to grow great brains, grow great kids. All right, I think I'm going to go back a slide just in case. Okay, nope, good. All right, here's that neuron again. There's an actual illustration diagram of two brain cells, one that's healthy and one that's not. One that's reactive, one that's proactive. Again, it's not about just psychology. It's not just about what you would like. It's neurological. This is being smart. Being smart is having a healthy brain, having healthy neurons. All right. I think that's the end of our conversation today. Unless you have any questions, I'm looking at the chat. And okay, thanks, Joe. Yeah, I had to turn my slides back on. Anyway, hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening today or tomorrow, whenever you listen. And please share with me, because I'm not a teacher if there aren't learners. If I don't know there are learners, I don't know what I'm teaching, if I am at all. So having a dialogue with you is valuable, is helpful. So I encourage you to please, if you will, please share with me what you're thinking, your comments, and what questions you have, so that I can be a teacher for you. And I'll know I am, because I have learners that are learning. All right, thank you very much. Have a great day, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Take care.